Another place this might come up is science class. So say you're talking about how objects fall at 10 meters per second squared. Now, meters per second squared is kind of a concept that you need to understand a few things in order to understand what that means. And so often we give kids the experience of like dropping things and measuring how long it takes for different objects to hit the ground. So that would be one text because they have to kind of read the scenario where they've taken something and dropped it. You can't really see that I dropped something because it's black on a black background, but I did, I promise. The other thing that we do sometimes is write it out. So we might write 10 meters per second squared. Now I just said a bunch of words, but I only used a couple of symbols because that's typical of mathematics. They use symbols to represent bigger and bigger ideas so that you can take huge amounts of data and express it in the smallest way possible. I could also write this out. So I could say this is 10 meters per second squared. You would never see this. You would never see this because it takes way too much time and too much space compared to that. And so we can talk to students not just about why this is the way that we represent it so that they will memorize it for a test, but also about how that convention came to be. If scientists are trying, or engineers are trying to communicate with each other, then over long distances about lots and lots of ideas at a time, they're not going to use, what is that, 5 words that have lots of letters in it, where they could use just a few symbols. So students can not just remember that this is the convention, but they also have a sense of why this is the convention. Now, people that teach this might also know a different way to represent it, and sometimes it's represented as a diagram. What we have already are 3 different texts about the same concept on the board, and a 4th might be when they literally drop something. So kids already have, within just a few seconds, a set of representations of the same idea that they can compare and contrast in order to understand how the ideas are communicated or not communicated, and why those conventions exist. At that point, they're not memorizing, oh, this is how I show this in science class. Why? Because my teacher told me to. They're understanding, potentially, that we use this symbol set because this is too long and too inefficient, and this is unclear, and this, if I drop this pen, doesn't mean anything to people across great distances. So they're not just learning about the convention, but they're also learning something about science itself, that it's all about communicating findings between scientists to build on new knowledge, that it builds on itself. It can't just be sort of, tangent, sorry.